Yo, what it do? It's your boy J. Lou, and you guys are just in time for something new. Now in this video, what I'm gonna do is just go into the details and explain what makes 720 waves the hardest pattern in the wave game. But before I do that, you know what I'm saying, I'm shooting these videos while Hurricane Harvey, or whatever you want to call it, is going on. But let me show y'all right quick. This is what we dealing with, you know what I'm saying? So y'all follow me right quick.
Alright, so this is Saturday. As y'all can see, it's not raining too bad. It's about 4 o'clock and everything like that. But one thing you can definitely see is the clouds just going crazy and everything, you know what I'm saying?
As for your boy J. Lou, I'm doing well. The storm is supposed to circle back around and hit Houston again. But yeah, so let's just get back to the point of this video. Now, if you do not know what I'm talking about, if you are new to my channel, 720 waves are not the traditional waves that most people tend to rock on their head. And instead of just talking, let me just show y'all what I'm talking about. Alright, so as you guys can see, my waves spin around my crown area. Now when it comes to your regular 360 waves, they're just waves that form out from your crown as if somebody took a pebble and threw it in a pond of water. But for 720s, it's like somebody took your head, dunked it in a toilet bowl, and swirled it around, and then it creates that swirling effect. Now, one of the biggest misconceptions about 720 waves, so many people think they have 720 waves simply because they have a swirl. And let me show y'all what I'm talking about. So, just to break this down even further, it's not just waves that spin around your head, but the key distinction that makes 720 waves different from other swirl patterns is the simple fact that on all 4 sides of your head, your waves slant. And in most cases, depending on what angle that they slant at, that determines if you have 720s or not. I know a lot of people that typically have like a back that looks like mine, to where the waves are going this way, but then they go to the front, to the left side, and then they like go back to the normal 360s or kind of like a 540 slant and everything like that, you know what I'm saying? Those are not 720s. If you don't have all 4 sides of your waves slanted, then they're not 720s. That is more so something what we call a hybrid in the wave game. But for me, as you guys can see, my right side is slanted. This is not the normal way that my waves go. Normally they will want to go forward this way, you know what I'm saying? And as you can see, my back is slanted, and instead of going down the traditional route, they're going straight to the side. Now a lot of people try to tell me that my left side is not slanted, but my left side normally wants to go down this way, and because I slanted it forward and a kind of slight angle towards the top, that's what makes that side slanted as well. And then as you guys can see on the top of my head, my waves slant to the side, you know what I'm saying? So now just breaking this down a little bit further, the reason why this is so hard is because most people don't have crowns in the center of their head. For me, I'm kind of lucky in that sense because my crown is slightly placed in the center. It's kind of off to the right. Typically when I take my pictures and position my waves on camera, I typically have it shown to where it looks like it's in the center, but my crown is slightly to the right, you know what I'm saying? So that's one thing that will make 720s hard off the rip. Simply because with 720 waves, everything starts from the crown. If your waves don't go all the way into the crown, your pattern will look incomplete and it won't look right. As of right now, that's something that I'm struggling with, just because when I first started off my pattern, I focused on my crown, and then I started worrying about the connects, and I ended up messing up my connects, which I'll go into a little bit more detail later. But that's the first reason why 720s are the hardest pattern in the wave game. Now the second thing I want to point out that makes 720s the hardest pattern is probably the most important, and that revolves around the simple fact that when it comes to getting connects, it is very difficult. I mean very difficult to get all your waves to align into your crown and not have any forks. So just to break that down a little bit further, what I mean by that is when it comes to this pattern, all your waves typically form starting in your crown and they go all the way out. Now, if you keep that in mind, just think about it. If you have a looser curl type, it may be a lot easier for you to pull off the 720 pattern because you won't have as many waves. You'll have a lot more bigger waves. But for me, my curl type is somewhere between 3B and 3C. And what that allows me to do is I don't have as many small waves as people tend to refer to, but I still have a fairly large amount of waves that I have to try to get to connect and originate from my crown out and flow without any forks and everything like that. And the reason why I say forks is because forks typically make your pattern look ugly, especially with 720s. Now, if you have a tighter curl type, you know what I'm saying, something like a 4A to a 4C, that really makes 720s very, very difficult. It's not a lot of people that can pull it off. They both have a curl type in that range, and they've pulled off 720s and look really, really good. But for me, there's not a lot of people on YouTube with my curl type that try to go with 720s, you know what I'm saying? I want to give a big shout out to that boy HB3. I think his curl type is a little bit bigger than mine, and that's one reason why I was very excited to see him go on this journey. And I'm always excited to see anybody going 720s. Alright, now going back into the connects. Now, the main reason why it is very, very difficult for this pattern is because when you have 360s, they all start and they form around your crown, you know what I'm saying? And they go outward. Now, the further they go out, the easier it is to have connects, you know what I'm saying? For me, when I used to have 360s, I had probably about 8 to 12 waves around my head, like basically 8 to 12 rows of waves on my head, starting from my crown all the way out. But with 720s, as you guys can see, almost every single wave, I have way more waves, and now they all have to go into this small little area called the crown. Now, when you try to do that, that is really what makes the pattern hard, because traditionally with 360s, especially with beehives, the reason why that pattern is a lot more easier is simply because you only have about 8 angles. But with 720s, it's not so simple. So let me get more into the breakdown of the different angles and things like that. Now, when it comes to 720 waves or any kind of swirl, like I always say, I prefer and I always recommend an oval brush like this, simply because whenever you use a palm, it allows you to be able to get those angles the way you need to. And because it doesn't have that much coverage at the end, it won't disturb too much of your pattern. So let's get into it. Now, for me, when I give advice to people that want to get 720s, they think that,
oh man, J-Lou, how many angles you gotta brush?
When it comes to 720s, everybody is unique because, like I said, with your crown placement, everybody's crown is on a different area of their head. And then the second thing that plays a factor is the shape of your head. So when I first started getting my pattern, it was easy for me to focus on my crown and be able to get a very, very dope crown. But one thing that I learned was that it was very hard for me to make my connections line up because I had to contour my angles based on the shape of my head. So what I mean by that is, when I started brushing my crown like this, I started off on this side right here, going down. I brush this little angle right here. But then on this side, I can't brush it forward. So what I have to do is hook it like this. And the main reason why I have to do that is because I realized with my hair shape as well as how my hair grows, that's how I would have to brush that angle to get my hair to flow well. Now, everybody is different, and depending on how you start your pattern off, most people with 720s will realize the left side of your pattern will be the hardest pattern to wave up. And the main reason why is because you're brushing in a direction that your hair doesn't want to go in. Like, I have a video that I'll make sure I link above right over here, basically explaining scalping and things like that and showing you guys my hair direction. But for the sake of this video, my hair grows down and it goes towards the front of my temple area. But when I'm brushing at the opposite direction that my hair wants to grow. So it takes a way longer time to be able to train up this area of your head. Now with my top, my hair grows to the front, but because I'm brushing it this way with my crown area, it's not very different from how my hair wants to grow. So the top as well as your right and the back will follow how you brush. But the thing that makes it difficult is the simple fact that you're trying to get all your waves to flow into your crown. Now, when it comes to the contouring of your head, like based off of your head shape, one thing I want to explain is I realize that right here on my right side of my head, I have to brush my hair at a very different angle to get it to swoop back into my crown area. You know what I'm saying? And first what I was doing was brushing straight down, but I realized the further I go out, I have to like hook it like this. And the main reason why I have to do that is because I'm just, like I said, I'm following the contour of my head. Now, depending on your head shape, you may not have to do that. But that's what makes 720s very, very hard, because everybody is not made the same, you know what I'm saying? We're all born with different features and stuff like that. Alright. So the next thing that makes 720 waves very, very difficult to obtain is because one of the most important things for wavers is getting a haircut. Now, if you go to the barber, most barbers cut with the grain. With the grain does not mean the same thing if you're cutting 360 waves compared to 720 waves. With the grain, with our pattern, means that you have to cut in the flow of your pattern. You know what I'm saying? If you do that, you have a greater chance of losing your edges simply because my hair naturally wants to grow down. But if I'm cutting with the grain, I'm going to be cutting my edges perpendicular to the way that they grow, which would mean I'm cutting my sides against the grain. You know what I'm saying? So that's another thing that makes 720s very, very hard if you want to maintain waves that go down to your hairline. You know what I'm saying? Is you have to either cut your own hair or get your barber to understand how they need to cut your hair. Because if they don't, you will lose tons of progress always on your sides as well as the top. Simply because for me, I don't know about most of you guys, but my top hairs, they don't grow to the front, and they also don't follow the way that I brush. I have to really keep my hair at a longer length, and if I cut with the grain, then my edges along the front of my hairline will just they'll basically vanish the same way. You know what I'm saying? So alright, now when it comes to doing lineups, what really makes 720s hard is whenever you try to give yourself a taper or get a taper, your waves will tend to dip down into your taper line, and it'll look as if you don't have a taper. You know what I'm saying? I need to give myself an edge up, but as you guys probably can see, it looks like I have waves that go down to the bottom of my hairline and everything like that, even though I tapered the back of my neck previously. That's one of the difficult things about having 720 waves, is because whenever you get a fresh lineup and taper, it does not look right if you don't get it done properly. That's one of the reasons why I prefer cutting my own hair, because most barbers don't know how to do it, or they don't want to take the time to learn how to cut your hair. Now, the last thing about cutting 720 waves, if you have the traditional, the true 720s of your waves that go vertical or at a very hard slant on the front, you will notice that your hair will overlap your hairline. You know what I'm saying? Your waves will try to go over your hairline. So when you're trying to give yourself a lineup or trying to get a lineup, it is very important not to push your lineup back. You know what I'm saying? A lot of barbers don't know how to cut wavers head, and then at the same time, when you get something like 720s, they don't have a lot of experience cutting 720 wavers. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you're taking a chance and a gamble every time you go into the barbershop. And it's like one of the things about becoming an elite waver, the best thing that I tell people is you have to start learning how to cut your own hair. Even if that means you cut your hair, but then you just go get a lineup. Because the biggest thing about saving progress with 720s is cutting your hair at least. You know what I'm saying? A lineup will grow back in 2 weeks. You know what I'm saying? But if you get a bad cut, that'll set you back for maybe 4 weeks, just because you have to wait till your hair grows back. You have to wait till it gets to a curl length and everything like that. And then you have to focus back on building your connection and everything, you know? So if you are a 720 waver, I would highly advise you to start learning how to cut your own hair. Take a look at some of my videos that I'll link above and everything like that. I'll have another video coming in the future to show you guys my progress. But just for the sake of time and to wrap this up, those are the things that make getting 720 waves so difficult. You know what I'm saying? As of right now, I'm still working on mine, trying to get my flow. But one thing that you'll notice is your hair will grow a little bit more thicker in your crown area. So that's one thing you really have to focus on your crown, because if you don't, it's easy to lose your crown when you have a swirl pattern. You know what I'm saying? So but I'm gonna make a video in the future just explaining it a little bit more. I appreciate you guys for taking the time out your day just to watch this video. If you have any questions, make sure you leave them down in the comment section below. Thanks for all the prayers in regards to the hurricane and the storm that we're dealing with down here. But I hope y'all guys enjoy y'all weekend and everything like that. It's your boy J. Lou. Salute!